The box midfield, what is it and why do we use it? So first things we're going to look at is what is the box midfield in football, how do we create the box midfield, and why is it useful? There's a couple of ways of creating a box midfield. Is that one of the fullbacks, and I'm going to use the right fullback here, would invert into the middle of the pitch. The 6 would shift left, and the remaining 3 defenders would come across, and that would give us a 3-2 in build-up. So that would give us the 3, and that would give us a 2 with the box there. And that's one way of creating the box. And you can see already that we've created overloads there, and that's something we're going to talk about later in the video. That gives us a 3-2-2-3 shape. So we're really, really aggressive in the top end of the pitch because we've got our wingers still and our striker, our 9. We've got an overloaded midfield with a double pivot as the base with the fullback inverting, and then we've got a back 3 that can cover the width of the pitch and circulate the ball really effectively and build up from there. So that's how we create a box midfield. Now, the next question is, why do we create a box midfield? First one, and the most obvious one that I've spoken about already, is just midfield dominance. So you can see already, if we're lined up against a traditional 4-3-3, which we've got in white, the blue team here have got a strong overload against a midfield 3. So there should always be a spare player in that midfield area, that central area of the pitch, which is obviously really important because that's where the goals are. So we can control and dominate the central areas. Another area of the pitch that we might also look to dominate is the half space areas as well. And if I just add the half space areas in here, you can see that a box midfield, if I just play about with this, allows us to really dominate in those areas because we're really strong in those half space areas, okay? So these are the areas where we can naturally create overloads against a fullback, against a wide player. So not only are we creating overloads in this central area, if the ball was to shift left, we can create an overload quite easily against a fullback and get in behind and get into a really dangerous area in the half spaces. So these are really important areas to hit diagonal crosses from. So the 10 might get into this sort of area. You see Kevin De Bruyne doing this a lot, where they'll whip a ball around the back of the opposition. Same from this side, we could really dominate this area. We could get the fullback in a 2v1 situation here and dominate, but just allows us to get into these key areas and control. And then when the ball is in a central area, we should be able to find a spare player, that +1 mentality, that overload mentality against a traditional 3 in midfield. What the box will give us with a double pivot is improved ball circulation as well. So we should be able to maintain that possession and be able to circulate wide. Obviously, the white team here aren't going to look like this most of the time. If the ball's over onto this far side of the pitch, they're probably going to look a little bit something like this to defend. And I know I've staggered this out because I'm exaggerating this so I can play through the benefits that I'm looking to talk through. But a pivot here could easily get the ball, be the spare man in midfield. So say we're locked on here, these 3. So say we're locked on here, there should always be a spare player. Maybe this player here could then receive the ball and then be able to circulate out to the right centre back here, who's in a sort of a half space position to be able to play forwards. So ball circulation creates overload, so that +1 mentality either centrally, out wide in those half space areas as well, and the domination of those half space areas all the way through the pitch. We've talked about how the box creates overloads already, so in wide areas and centrally, and that's the main objective, right? So if we were to say, like, what's the point of a box midfield? The main point of a box midfield is to give us a central overload. The then benefit of it giving us half space advantage and overloads in those areas, another added benefit, but the main benefit of creating a box midfield is to allow us to control the game in that central area. The considerations for this are that because we've inverted a fullback here, is that there's a danger in transition, okay? So if we were to lose the ball, the obvious danger comes if we've been shifted a bit and we've lost the ball. The obvious danger comes if the 10's took the ball from the 2 here, say the 2 is in real trouble there because they've still got a job out of possession to come and cover back in this area, because out of possession you're probably going to be a back 4 still. The 11, if 10 wins the ball, plays to the 11, they've got a 1v1 essentially. The 4's going to come round and cover, but it might give the white team an overload opportunity if they get bodies in the box and they can hit the blue team quickly in that transition moment. So the blue player, the 2, has got to think about recovery when the ball turns over. So first point is, can we press the ball quickly? A box midfield allows you to put pressure on the ball very quickly. We've got a lot of players in the central area. So if the 6 wins the ball from the 10, we know we can go and press and we can probably go and win that ball quickly. Maybe it's a 5-second rule. Work hard for 5 seconds. Can we win the ball back quickly within our offensive shape? If we can't, this 2 needs to think about getting back 100 yards to get back into their back 4 shape. And then probably a diagonal run, get goal side of the ball, get shape maintained. But that's only if we can't win the ball back quickly in our quick press at the top end of the field. So just to summarise, and what you might look like in and out of possession shape, if we have been able to get back into possession, is probably something like a compact 4-5-1. So these wide players would come back. And I know, again, this is sort of idealistic on a tactics board, but you'll probably look a little bit more something like that when we haven't got the ball, if we haven't been able to recover the ball quickly. And then in possession, we've got our wingers nice and high. We've got our 10 and our 8 that are top of the box. Our 6 shifts across into the half space. Our fullback comes across into this half space area, and our back 3 shift across to support and circulate the ball. And that's how we go from our out of possession shape into our in possession shape. The key moments are those transitionary moments in between both times, and just making sure we're either pressing the ball very quickly or we're getting back into our shape and a decision's been made really quickly. So what have we spoken about today? We've spoken about what is a box midfield and why do we use it. It creates overloads in the central area as a key objective. It gives us an added benefit of creating overloads in the half space areas and being able to create that +1 mentality out wide as well, and offer support in those areas of the pitch. It gives us improved ball circulation through the 2 pivots, so we can maintain the ball and support the play in possession. And we have strict rules in terms of what happens when we lose the ball. We have to go and press quite quickly. We should have an advantage to press quite quickly because we've got more players in that central area if that's where the ball turns over. So can we put immediate pressure on the ball? If we can't do that, then we look to get back in our shape, which probably looks more something like a 4-5-1, but that's up to the coach and your particular strategy on that day. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. Let me know in the comments below